Hey polish fans, it's Caroline again and welcome to another video here at Wild Wind Lacquer. In today's video we are going to do some comparisons. I have 3 different color categories in these neutral leaning pinks to gray purples to deep purples that I need to compare for my upcoming neutrals collaboration video. These are not all of the colors in these color families that I have in my entire collection, but they were ones that I was able to pull without having to go through every single polish in my entire collection. I probably have some stragglers tucked away somewhere, but we're going to go ahead and start here with the top row. This one actually starts more on the gray side and then gets into our nudie pinks. So let's go ahead and take a look at that row first. I think you can definitely see the gray compared to the pinks that we're going to end up with. Now in each group, I think some of them could have stood to be organized ever so slightly differently, but sometimes it's hard to tell in the bottle what the polish is actually going to swatch like. So there could be some tweaks here and there, but let's go ahead and start with the first polish in the first row. This one is from Kiss. This is a Dollar Tree brand. At least that's where I've gotten my bottles of Kiss. This one is called Eye Contact, and this one is actually much grayer than the rest of them. In fact, I think this is a true soft gray. So this one doesn't really have any colors in this to compare to. It is a beautiful soft gray. There's a very unique hue to it. It's got sort of a light but warm tone to it. It's really kind of hard to describe. This is kind of the color that I would describe as like marshmallow or mushroom. It's really soft and delicate and very nice in 2 coats. This is it on the swatch wheel in those 2 coats with no top coat. So as you can see, it's got that softer gray compared to our next polish. And the reason I included it is when you look at it here, there is that touch of like very soft purple to it. Like I said, it definitely is the grayest of these, but it is a very nice soft color. So that first one was Kiss Eye Contact. The second one is from Zoya. This one is called Easton, and this one is beigeier, a bit darker. In fact, on the swatch wheel you'll see that they are even more different than they are in the bottle. I think on camera they are coming across virtually the same, maybe a little bit more evenly dispersed pigment in the Zoya on camera. Here's Easton in 2 coats. As you can see, once they're swatched, you can definitely tell the tonal differences between the two. Zoya Easton is darker by comparison. You also have a bit more of a tan, pinky beige lean to this one compared to our softer gray. This is definitely one that I think I'm going to want in my winter neutrals, but we'll have to see. I am trying to whittle all of these down in each color category because I obviously don't need all of them in the same rack. We're also going to be debating if I need all of them in my collection as well, but one polish at a time. This one is a really nice soft color. I think on my skin tone it's going to come off a bit more gray than some of these other pinker tones that we're going to get into, but a beautiful soft color. And again, a nice 2-coater. That one was Zoya's Easton. Next is another one from Kiss. This one is called Silence, and this is another one that I really love the formula on. The polishes from Kiss have been really nice. This one, as you can see on the nail swatch, is a bit more pink than the other 2 that we've looked at. This is getting it more into the rest of the colors that we're going to be looking at. You do still get that pinch of like a gray tone, a bit of beige in here. This one I feel is another fairly unique shade, just to compare it to the one from Zoya. This one is, again, just a touch darker in the bottle. I think you can see a bit more brown in this one. And then on the nail, here it is. It is a bit more of like a mauve-leaning, dusty grayish. And it's really beautiful and soft, almost heading towards like a mink shade, which is really, really beautiful. Very wintry and a beautiful neutral color there. So that one was Kiss Silence. The next polish came to me from a Goodwill nail polish bag. This is Sally Hansen's Steely Serene, and this one does need a really good shake. Again, it is a bit separated. I've shaken it a few times. I think it needs an ultimate good shake though. By comparison, that one that we looked at previously in that Kiss formula is a bit pinker. This is a bit more on the neutral side. Here is Steely Serene in 2 coats. As you can see on the nail, it's got that true mink color. Like, to me, this is a pretty nice mink shade, whereas by comparison to the one from Kiss, you have more of a pink tone compared to the brown tone in Steely Serene. This is another really beautiful formula. I really liked it in 2 coats. I think all of these, for the most part, even out really nicely as well. So that was Sally Hansen's Steely Serene. Next up is an even darker shade. This one is from Zoya called Presley. And this is another really beautiful shade. By comparison to the one from Sally Hansen, you can see that darker tone to it. And again, more of that pink tone to it, a pinky purple compared to brown beige that was in Steely Serene. This is a beautiful color and another beautiful 2-coater. And here it is on the nail wheel next to the other 2 colors, so you can tell that deeper tone in Presley and also a bit more of that purpley pink tone. By comparison, I think this one has even more purple than the previous one from Kiss. So another beautiful neutral option, just a beautiful color. How many times can I say beautiful? But I really like the depth of this one. So that was Zoya Presley. Next up is one of the few polishes that I included that was not a straight up cream. This one is from Island Girl, and this is Polynesian Heat. This is in that same color family of these neutral leaning pinks with maybe a pinch of gray, although I will say when this swatched, it had a lot more pink in it than I was expecting. Here it is in 2 coats, and maybe you can see it on the nail. There is a very subtle shimmer in here. I wouldn't say it exactly adds very much intensity to the polish, but it does add a bit of a glimmer. Like I said, this is a bit pinker than I was expecting it to be, but it does dry down to sort of a muted purpley pink. And then by comparison to the one from Zoya Presley, you can tell that it's a bit lighter, heading more truly into our less gray pinks and more of our neutral pinks. So that one was Island Girl Polynesian Heat. Next up is one from NCLA. This one is volume, I think 4. I'm not good at Roman numerals. I think that's 4. But this is another really beautiful nudie pink color. You can tell I have a type with this ever so slightly beige leaning soft muted pink. Here it is in 2 coats. As you can see, compared to the one from Island Girl, it is less of a pink and more of a beigey pink. This one had a really nice 2-coat formula as well. So another really beautiful option there. I didn't exactly see a true dupe, although I will say the one right next to it, which we're going to look at next, which is the L'Oreal, is probably the closest. So that was NCLA Volume 4. And then let's just go ahead and compare it to L'Oreal, which is Dutzen's Nude. I have no idea if I'm pronouncing that correctly. But here in the bottle, I think you can see more of the subtle differences. The one from NCLA is a bit more saturated, where there's a little bit more gray in the bottle from L'Oreal. So this came out in the neutral or nudes line that they came out with a few years ago. I actually have quite a number of them from this collection. They had a lot of different shades of these neutral colors that were very beautiful. So here it is in 2 coats. I think on camera this is pulling a bit grayer than it is in person. There is a really beautiful soft pink tone to this. Very nice on the nails. Another beautiful 2-coater. There, I think on camera you can see the slight differences between the 2 colors, although they are very similar. Not exact dupes, but they do give you a very similar vibe, obviously. So that one was L'Oreal Dutzen's Nude. Next up is one from P2. This one is called Cute Girl, and this one is a bit more deep than the previous one. As you can see in the bottle, you've got a bit more of a saturation going on in the one from P2. Here it is in 2 coats. This one has more of a warm tone to it. You've got sort of like a caramel leaning pink to it. Beautiful 2-coater again. Love this type of tone. I think this is one of the more unique among the colors that we've looked at, and I think the warmest that we've seen so far. A lot of these other colors lean a bit cool by comparison. So this one's really nice on the nail. So that was P2, Cute Girl. Next up is another Zoya. This one is called Rue. This was on my wish list for quite a while, as was Presley. And this one has a lot more white in it than some of the other polishes that we've looked at in this lineup so far. Here it is on the nail in 2 coats. As you can see next to Cute Girl, it has a bit more white pigment in it than Cute Girl. It also leans a bit cooler by comparison. I think you can see that warm tone in the one from P2. But a really nice shade, another beautiful neutral color. Again, no dupes that I can see, although it might be slightly more similar to the one from L'Oreal. Let's go ahead and see them side by side. So here's the one from L'Oreal and Rue from Zoya. These ones might be pretty similar, although I do see some subtle differences. The one from L'Oreal is a bit more saturated by comparison, but these two are fairly close. So that last one was Zoya's Rue. Next up is one from LA Colors. This one is Vanilla Latte. And this is a nice like vanilla neutral color. It's got a beigey warm tone to it. This is it in 2 coats. This is another one that I thought was really nice in 2 coats. This one has a very light latte color to it. There's less pink in it, more beige. So another really nice light skin tone color. Beautiful tone. So that one was LA Colors Vanilla Latte. Next up is one that's even more gray. In fact, technically we could compare this kind of to the one from Kiss. I think by comparison you can see the differences there though. The one from Kiss has a lot more of a blue tone to it, whereas this one from Essie, which is Mindful Meditation, has more of a warm beige tone. And here's Mindful Meditation in 2 coats. This one is obviously on the lighter side compared to the other ones that we've looked at. You have that pinch of a gray tone, which makes this feel a bit cooler. Really nice neutral option though. I'm definitely going to have to think really hard about which ones of these I'm going to want on my fall rack. But that's another beautiful 2-coater. That one from Essie was Mindful Meditation. And the last one in this first row is from Maybelline, and this one is called Mink Lust. In the bottle, I thought that this was going to be a lot lighter and much more similar to Mindful Meditation, which is why I swatched it next to each other. But as you can see on the swatch wheel, it ended up being a bit pinker than I was expecting it to be. So there it is in 2 coats. It is sort of like a putty leaning pink. Nice and soft, but a lot pinker than Mindful Meditation. So that's another nice soft pink option for a neutral for winter. So that was Maybelline Mink Lust. All right, so that was our first row. How many of those do I need on my neutrals rack? Let's see. So we had the gray from Kiss. I really like this tone. I don't think I have anything quite like this on my neutrals rack or even on my winter rack so far. And I have been wanting to wear these since I got them, and I have yet to do so. So I think I want to add Kiss Eye Contact to my neutrals rack. Let's see. Next up we had the Zoya. That one leaned a bit more on the brown side. That one is a gorgeous color as well. The other one that is kind of similar, I would say, would be the Sally Hansen. So let's see if I need both of these on my rack. We have Zoya Easton and Sally Hansen Steely Serene. So here is Zoya Easton and Steely Serene. Steely Serene is obviously darker. You have more of a light tone to the Zoya, which I'm actually leaning more towards the Zoya. Yeah, I'm leaning more towards the Zoya. So I think we're going to have that on my winter neutrals as well. The one from Kiss is kind of comparable, let's see, to Zoya Presley. Let's see how these two compare side by side. These two are very similar actually. They looked a lot different in the bottle. So here is Kiss Silence and Zoya Presley. They are different. They're not exact true dupes, but they are very, very similar. I think you have a bit more of a deeper color in Presley and a slightly less saturated one from Kiss. Do I need both? Do I need both in my collection, let alone on my rack? They are different enough, I think. I know some people are going to laugh. But look at that. Zoya's Presley has a deeper tone on this fresh swatch. The one from Kiss has a less saturated tone, and it's amplified even more in other light. The lighting that's here seems to make them seem a little bit more similar than they are. Not saying they aren't similar, but which one? I think because I already am including one of the Kiss polishes, I want Zoya's Presley on my winter rack. I think the one from Island Girl is just a little bit too pink for what I was aiming for neutrals, as is the one from NCLA. The one from P2 is actually a bit too warm for what I was aiming for. Zoya's Rue, I think, is another one that I want on my rack. And that one is pretty similar to the L'Oreal as well, so I don't really need both on my rack. I really like this one. This one is Essie's Mindful Meditation. That has a lot of white in it. And then Mink Lust from Maybelline is a bit pink as well. So I think what that means is this is what I'm looking at. Oof, I can fit all these in one hand. These are what I'm looking at to add to my neutrals rack from that first row. So I think you can tell all the differences side by side. I don't think any of them are dupes or super close to each other. The closest would be these two, but like you saw on the rack here or on the nail swatch, the one from Kiss is a lot grayer and you have more of a beigey, grayish tone to the one from Zoya. So that's what I'm adding to my rack from row number 1. All right, so on to our grayer, grayish purples. I am sure I have even more of these in my collection because this color specifically, this tone of gray purple, as well as this deeper tone here at the bottom row, I know I have a lot of. I see them all the time, I get them all the time because I'm very drawn to them, and I was actually very pleasantly surprised that I didn't have like straight on, dead on dupes. Even better yet, the entire wheel didn't look like all the same polish, which it could have very easily done. So I know a lot of people will say, well, they're all basically the same anyways, but like I say, when I get these in mystery boxes or when I buy another one, what I like about color families in general is you get a lot of variations in tone, depth, richness, opacity. There's a lot of differences that you can see. As you can see on this nail wheel, we do have one that's a bit purpler, and a lot of these are darker, but you do get some grayer ones popping out here and there. So we have a lot to look at in this family. The first one is a Sally Hansen called Here to Stay. This color family, I'm going to start sounding like a broken record, so I'm just going to say here and now, this is all going to be purple leaning grayish and just be done with it so that I don't have to say that for every single one. But this is more of the light side of this color family, at least in the bottle. I was actually fairly surprised at how dark this one ended up drying on the nail. So here it is in 2 coats, and none of these have top coats. As you can see with creams, a lot of times they dry very shiny all on their own, but if you want them to last, I would definitely recommend a glossy top coat. That was Sally Hansen's Here to Stay. The second one is from Sundays. This one is called number 28. This is, I think, the closest one to the one from Sally Hansen. They are pretty similar on the swatch. Here's number 28 in 2 coats. I think there's a bit of a difference, but I mean, it is minuscule. The one from Sally Hansen, I think, is like a pinch warmer. There's a bit more of a cool tone to the one from Sundays, but it is very minuscule. These are 2 that I would say are almost dupes, so I probably don't even need both of them in my collection, which means I'm probably going to destash one of them. So that one was Sundays number 28. I still have yet to decide which one I'm going to destash, but I'm probably leaning to keeping the one from Sundays because that is more of a boutique-y fancy brand. The next one is from Ren. This one is called Sweet Dreams, and this one I actually could have swatched down in the next row, but in the bottle I was sort of hemming and hawing about which row it could have ended up in, and so I ended up putting it in the one that had more of the gray tones. But this one ended up swatching a lot purpler by comparison. So here it is on the wheel in 2 coats. As you can see, it's got the most purple of the 3 that we've swatched so far. In fact, I think it has the most purple in this entire wheel. But a beautiful tone. I really, really like this one. In fact, I don't have a dupe of this even in this row down here. So happy to see that I didn't have dupes. But another beautiful shade, definitely more purple leaning than I was expecting. So that one was Ren Sweet Dreams. The next one is another Sally Hansen. This one is called Greige Gardens. I actually ended up with 2 bottles of this one. Actually, I don't remember if the first one I ended up buying intentionally, but I know the second bottle came to me in I think a Goodwill bag. And like I said, when I unboxed that one, I was very happy with this color because it's, well, as you can see, in that color family of greigey purples that I really, really enjoy. Here it is in 2 coats. This one does have more purple in it than the other ones that we've looked at so far, other than the one from Wren. It is a beautiful tone. This one did look nice on the swatch in 2 coats, but this is one of the polishes that I actually could see some people possibly needing a 3rd coat to reach full opacity on. But a beautiful color there. So that one was Sally Hansen's Greige Gardens. The next one is from Essie. This one is Chin Chili. This is a classic from Essie and definitely one of the ones that I think of when I think of this color family. Here it is in 2 coats. This one I was really happy with in 2 coats. I think most people would be fine in just 2. As you can see, by comparison, the one from Sally Hansen has a pinch more purple to it. There's also a bit more of a deep color to Greige Gardens as opposed to Chin Chili. So while these have a similar feel, there's definitely a tonal difference. So that one was Essie Chin Chili. Next up we have more of a brown leaning color from Zoya. This one is called Jana. And this is a beautiful color. Again, a lovely 2-coater. This is it in 2 coats. As you can tell by comparison, there's a lot more brown to it. There's a bit of a warm tone to it compared to Essie's Chin Chili. By comparison, Chin Chili has more of a gray tone. There's that warmth to Jana. This one has a beautiful formula, although I do think I could have swatched it next to our next Zoya. But again, it was one of those colors where I kept hemming and hawing about where it could go in our lineup. And I do think I could have put this one from Deborah Lippmann somewhere else on the scale, but that's how I ended up swatching them. So that was Zoya's Jana. So next up is Deborah Lippmann. This one is She-Wolf, and this one definitely is lighter than the one from Zoya, both of them actually. Here it is in 2 coats. You can definitely tell that lighter tone and less brown than our previous Zoya. I would say this is almost more of a cool tone greige, but another nice 2-coater there. So that was Deborah Lippmann's She-Wolf. Next up is another Zoya. This one is Normandy, and let's just go ahead and compare it to Jana. In the bottle, you can see some subtle differences. It looks like there's a pinch more purple by comparison in Jana, whereas there's even more brown in Normandy. In the bottle, here is Normandy in 2 coats. This one has more of like a dark mink look to it on the nail. Again, a beautiful 2-coater though. And there it is on the swatch with Jana there. There might be some subtle differences between the 2, but these are another 2 bottles that I really don't think I need both of because they are so similar. I don't remember if these were the 2 that I unboxed in the same haul, but I remember coming across 2 from Zoya that I thought for a second were 2 mislabeled bottles because they looked identical. So that one was Zoya's Normandy. The next one is from China Glaze. This one is called Below Deck. Here it is in 2 coats. By comparison, this one has more purple than the previous 2 that we looked at, Zoya and the Deborah Lippmann. It's a richer, darker tone, and like I said, there is more purple in it by comparison. So when you compare it to Normandy and She-Wolf, there's a lot more gray and white in She-Wolf, and there's much more brown in Zoya's Normandy. So that one was China Glaze's Below Deck. And then next up is another China Glaze. So we're just going to compare them in the bottle because I was pretty sure these were going to look much closer than they did on the swatch, because look at that in the bottle. At least in person, they look very similar. I think on camera, it's pulling out a lot more of the differences. So by comparison, Below Deck looks much darker, whereas there's a bit more white in the next one, which is Head to Taupe. Here's Head to Taupe in 2 coats. Here on the swatch, you can definitely tell that it is lighter than Below Deck. Similar family, obviously, since it's in the same lineup, but it is lighter. I really like the tone on this one. Again, I feel like I'm repeating myself on these, but that is a really nice one. I feel like we could kind of compare that to Essie's Chin Chili. These 2 could be fairly similar as well. Could have been closer on our swatch wheel, but again, when you're looking at what's in the bottle and then go to swatch them, sometimes you see different things once they're swatched. But that one was China Glaze Head to Taupe. Next up is one from Sephora by OPI. This one is called Metro Chic, And this is one that I thought for sure would be pretty close to China Glaze's Below Deck. Here they are side by side. I think by comparison, there's a bit more of a warm tone to Below Deck, a bit more of a cool minky shade in Metro Chic. But again, the differences I'm talking about are pretty minuscule. Here's the one from Sephora in 2 coats. I think this is another one that on certain nail lengths, you might need a third for full opacity, but I was happy with it in 2. As you can see, by comparison to the China Glazes, once they're swatched, there's a lot more brown in Metro Chic than I was expecting. And by comparison, Below Deck and Head to Taupe have more purple in them. So hopefully on camera you can see the color differences. Below Deck is a bit darker, but still has more purple than Metro Chic. And then by comparison, Head to Taupe is much lighter than the 2 of them. So our second to last shade in this color family is Sephora by OPI's Metro Chic. And the last one is another LA Colors. This one is called Skinny Dip. Here it is in 2 coats. This is a beautiful 2-coater. I'm actually very impressed with the cream formulas from this brand. It is really nice to apply and it looks beautiful in 2 coats. This one I feel is actually pretty close to Metro Chic by Sephora by OPI. There are some subtle differences. I think the one from LA Colors actually looks more even across the nail. There might be a bit more gray in the one from LA Colors as well. So by comparison, just a touch more brown in Metro Chic. I think you could almost compare this one to our first 2 over here. So Sally Hansen's Here to Stay and Sunday's number 28. I think these are pretty close, but again, with this LA Colors, it just wasn't sure which side it belonged on when I was setting them up for swatches. But these 3 I feel like are pretty similar now that we've got them all swatched. So that last one in this second row was LA Colors Skinny Dip. All right, so this one I feel is going to be even harder than our first row because these are all giving very similar vibes. So we'll start off with, do I have any that I feel are dupes or at least similar enough that I don't need both of them in my collection? And I would say yes. In this row, there are a few that I feel are similar enough that I don't need both. The first 2 are the Sally Hansen and the Sundays. Here they are on the swatch wheel again. Like I said, they do have some very subtle differences, but I don't need both of them in my collection. I think they are very similar. Again, I can see differences when I put them up to my skin tone. The one from Sundays has a bit more gray to it by comparison, and there's just a touch more warmth to the one from Sally Hansen, which is kind of hard to tell on camera. Yeah, it's close, guys. It's very close. So yeah, I think I am keeping the one from Sundays and destashing the one from Sally Hansen. Here's the brush from Sundays. It's not exactly the best brush I've ever seen, but it is pretty nice. It is sort of a rounded brush. Not as wide as a lot of the ones that I like, but not super skinny either. And then I think I actually do want Sundays number 28 on my neutrals rack. Wren is a beautiful color. That one was Sweet Dreams, but I don't think I need this almost vibrant by comparison purple on my winter rack. I think I want Essie's Chinchilli on my rack. By comparison, Jan is actually a bit browner than what I would want. The one from Deborah Lippmann is actually a bit cool tone for my liking, so I think I'm actually going to destash that one. The 2 from Zoya, Jana and Normally, I don't feel like I need both in my collection either. They are incredibly similar. I do go back and forth on if they're dupes or not because once they're swatched, there is some subtle differences. Jan is here, Normany's there. I feel Normany is a bit darker, a bit more chocolatey. Jana is a little bit less saturated. I think Zoya and Normany is pretty close to Below Deck by China Glaze. Again, not dupes necessarily, but I mean, they're very similar. I feel like those 2 are just close enough that I don't really need both. Or I should say all 3 if I'm including it in this lineup here. Oh, the choices, you guys, the choices. You'd think it'd be fairly easy, but no. Because they are different. There's subtle differences.
2 hours later.
Well, to complicate things, I think I could also add that 4th one to this mostly dupes. My goodness. Send help. Okay, well, I think, oddly enough, I think I'm going to destash the one from Sephora. That one is Metro Chic. Of the ones that we've swatched It's the only one that was a potential 3-coater, and it's similar enough that I don't feel like I'm missing out by not having it. It's pretty similar to the one from LA Colors, which was Skinny Dip. Hence, by extension, it is also very similar to the other ones that I was already having a hard time choosing between, which was Zoya's Jana, Zoya's Normani, and China Glaze Below Deck. They're all similar enough, this one included, that I really don't need all of them in my collection, let alone on my neutrals rack. Oh my gosh. Alright, I think Zoya's Normani is out. Zoya's Jana is in. China Glaze's Below Deck is in. And I think that means that LA Colors Skinny Dip is out. So that is 5 destashed from this. And let's see, I've only picked 2 so far onto my neutrals rack. But I think I want head to taupe on my rack. Is that different enough to chinchilli? No, not really. Okay, well, that only took forever. I think the only 2 that I'm pulling for my neutrals rack is Sunday's number 28 and Essie Chinchilli. That was painful. All right, lastly, we're gonna try to plow through this one. This is ending up to be a long video like I worried it might be. But we're going to try to plow through this last row, which is my darker shades of gray leaning purples. As you can see, I sort of went light on our very end here. These 3 are definitely different. Actually, these 4 are very different than these here. But again, I was very pleasantly surprised that I didn't end up with any like spot on, dead on, 100% dupes, because again, I like this color family. I love my grayy, dusty purples that have some taupe in them, some gray. So I did include the lighter ones because I felt like they all fell into this general realm of a gray leaning purple, although as you'll see, they are very different, obviously, from the different ends of the color wheel. The first one is Sinful Colors Kitten, and this is a beautiful soft color. This one is the lightest of this grouping, and here it is on the nail in 2 coats. I think I did 2 coats for all of these as well. This has more of a pink lean, like a putty pink, but definitely more on the pink side than the neutral side. A little bit of gray in there, but not so much to dull out the pink color in here. Beautiful shade. So that one was Sinful Colors, actually Sinful Shine by Sinful Colors Kitten. The next one is by Sally Hansen. This one is Island Punch. Here it is in 2 coats. This was another beautiful one in 2 coats. As you can see by comparison, there's more saturation than Kitten and a bit more purple than pink. So a beautiful tone. This one might have to make it to my rack, but we'll see. That was Sally Hansen's Island Punch. Next one is OPI's Grape Wall of China. This is another one that's in our lighter family. By comparison, there is more of a grapey hue to it, and there's actually less of a grayness once it's swatched. So this one isn't exactly in this color family, but there it is, it's swatched. Less gray than the rest of them. So that one was OPI's Grape Wall of China. Lastly, in our purple side of things, before we head into our darker, much grayer formulas, is this one from Zoya. This one is Michaela. And this is a really beautiful tone, like I said, much purpler than her counterparts. Here it is in 2 coats. This one is a really beautiful tone, much less gray leaning than a lot of the other colors that we're going to get into, but a beautiful tone there. Again, a beautiful 2-coater as well. So that was Zoya's Michaela. Next up, we're just going to look at both of these side by side because I was actually worried that these were going to be just basic dupes of each other, and they are similar, but we're going to take a look at the differences. We have 2 from Morgan Taylor. The one on the left is Be My Sugar Plum, and the one on the right is Lust at First Sight. So in the bottle, they definitely look similar. You have a slightly darker lean to the one that is Lust at First Sight, and Be My Sugar Plum is a bit more bright by comparison. We're just going to look at both of them at the same time here on the swatch wheel. Here we have Be My Sugar Plum and Lust at First Sight. So here I think you can see the differences, hopefully on camera, that there's a bit more of a brightness by comparison to Be My Sugar Plum, whereas Lust at First Sight has a bit more of a depth, a darkness to it. So again, I don't think I need both of them in my collection because they are the closest of the ones that we're going to look at on this nail ring. So those were two Morgan Taylors, Be My Sugar Plum and Lust at First Sight. Next up is one from Zoya. This one is Avi, or Avi. Avi? Probably Avi. This one has some more purple in it by comparison. The one from Morgan Taylor had more brown. Here it is in two coats. As you can see, there is more purple in it on the swatch as well. A dark purple, but there is more purple. So this is a beautiful one, a very nice option for winter or fall. So that one was Zoya's Avi. Next up is another OPI. This one is called Hello Hawaii. And this one actually has a bit more purple. Here it is in two coats. As you can see, this is the lighter of these darker purples. Beautiful color. This one actually doesn't dry as glossy as the rest of them, but like I've said, with these cream formulas, adding a glossy top coat will definitely help with longevity. So that one was OPI's Hello Hawaii. Next up is one from Essie. This one is called Winning Streak, and we're just going to do a side-by-side comparison of these two from Essie as well. The next one is Smokin' Hot, another classic. So here they are side by side. These two again have subtle differences. There's a bit more of a brown, a dark brown gray, if that's a thing, to Smokin' Hot. So pretty similar, but there are some differences again. Here they are on the nail. This one is Winning Streak. By comparison, you can see that more of a gray tone, whereas Smokin' Hot leans more brown. So a bit darker as well. There are those two. So that was Essie's Winning Streak and Essie's Smokin' Hot. And then lastly, we have OPI's Susie and the Arctic Fox. This one is another beautiful two-coater. Definitely the darkest. It's more in the family of Smokin' Hot, but it has even more richness to it, more pigment. By comparison, Smokin' Hot is a little bit lighter and less purple leaning. I feel like Susie and the Arctic Fox has more of that really rich inky purple, whereas Smokin' Hot has more of that rich brown lean to it with that purple hue. So that last one was OPI's Susie and the Arctic Fox. That was a pretty recent find that I got at TJ Maxx. All right, so here we go. Last row. This one has far less dupes than our middle row, so we got the hardest one over with, thankfully. I really like Kitten, and I also really like the one from Sally Hansen, which was Island Punch. But do I need either of them on my neutrals for winter? I don't think so. I think both of these are a bit too vibrant, so I think I'm going to save those for some other time. The one from OPI I also think is a bit more purple. This one is really nice from Zoya. That one was Avi. Not exactly a neutral though. Then we have the two from Morgan Taylor, and these are the first two in this grouping that I really don't feel like I need both of, but which one do I want? I think we are going to do a little bit of a comparison between these two and our second row, our middle row of more grays, because these were the two that I again was sort of hemming and hawing about which row they needed to belong to, and here's the reason why they ended up down here in our purples. By comparison, when you compare them to our grayish purples, they are a lot darker and a lot more saturated than any of the ones down here. I don't have anything that's even close in this second row. I mean, both of them are really beautiful though. Again, I have a hard time narrowing it down. The one that's next to it, Zoya, is by comparison a lot more purple than the two from Morgan Taylor. Those two have a lot more of that brown purple lean to them. So yeah, in other lighting, I just went into the other room. Both of these basically look identical on the nail. So depending on your lighting, these are going to look even more similar than they already do in this lighting. I mean, I hate to just eeny, meeny, miny, moe because there are differences. Always my dilemma. My goodness. This row was supposed to be easier. What happened? Okay, of the two, I think I'm going to keep Be My Sugar Plum and get rid of Lust at First Sight. I mean, I could easily go the other way though, because they are, like I said, very, very, very similar, and depending on the lighting, they look even more similar than they already do. But I think I like that Be My Sugar Plum is ever so slightly like a pinch, and I do mean like the minusculest amount lighter by comparison. So I think we're going to keep that one just to keep its tonality different, more different than the other polishes in this color family. The rest of them are different enough that I don't feel like I have any dupes to compare or destash. I'm pretty happy with the differences that I'm seeing. So that one's going to be the only destash. Am I pulling any for my neutrals rack? I think Essie Winning Streak might be the only one that I'm going to pull. And I mean, it's not a straight on neutral, but it is a bit grayer. So I think we'll go ahead and pull that one for my neutrals rack. And that will close out that. Hopefully enjoyed taking a look at some comparisons. Let me know what you thought of the dupes. Goodness, there were some that were a lot harder for me to decide on. I don't think that's a surprise to anyone when you're dealing with color groups that are your favorites, that you like all of them. It's really hard to pick and choose even when you're looking at two colors that are virtually identical. Does anyone else have that problem, or is that just me? In any case, hopefully enjoyed taking a look at some comparisons of some more neutral tones of a purple to pink family. Make sure to hit the little subscribe button down below if you haven't already. That way you don't miss out on any of my new videos. As always, thanks so much for hanging out with me, and I'll see you in that next video.